the one medalist OML team currently, with a shout out to Lauren, one of our original members. And so we wanted to talk today about our deck origins as were created, built, and then transitioned to Azure's product in its permanent home now. So a little bit of background, what OML is and how it came to be. One Medication List is part of a broader innovation initiative called One Medication Experience. They identified problem spaces around lack of shared data, poor member and associate experiences, and possibly even gaps in care, where a member might speak to a pharmacist or a clinician in some of our clinical programs once and build this medication list, and then next time they spoke to someone else, they had to do it all over again because this information is stored in separate places. Then, if you're a Humana associate working with these members, you may only have an hour to do your review with the member and spend 40 minutes doing data entry. Plus, then there's accuracy issues if you're relying on a member to provide their medication list. What if they don't even have a medication they're supposed to be on and we're asking them what your medication list is? We might never even realize they're not adherent at that point. So there was a lot of opportunity to shift from reactive to proactive in helping our members manage their medication and creating a better experience for our associates as well. So as you can see, OML is a single source of truth. You'll hear that a lot if you talk to our team. I'll say it a lot. It was in the slides more than once, but I think I edited it down to just once. But I'll say it again, single source of truth. And so we are an ecosystem, which we'll show in upcoming slides, but a platform that enables that one singular back-end to share information among multiple front-end consumers so that when someone enters information in Inspire, it's immediately available to a user in one of our other systems. So we maintain information for medications, allergies, and soon-to-be vaccines. It exists, but it's not really used today. And so we get our information from pharmacy claims, and then also the user enters manually adding medications, whether that's members or clinicians. And this is the team. Village.
Charles.
Jen.
Roger.
So the timeline started, and if I mess up, Lauren, feel free to jump in. Started back in 2015 with, if you've been to previous deck talks, or you are a Decland, or you've ever worked on a product associated with the deck, you probably are already familiar with discovery and framing that they did for 2 weeks, kind of discussing the problem that I mentioned and brainstorming proactive solutions and how this new product could address that. Moving into an inception and kicking off a build here in the deck. So it was originally a deck product with deck engineers, some pharmacy, clinical IT, and then led by innovation as business partners. And so over time, they launched the MVP, focusing on the first connected system, which was Inspire, a pharmacist tool. And so a lot of the original features were kind of tailored towards that, but as you'll see in the ecosystem, it has expanded greatly since then. And so over time, additional pharmacy IT members have rotated on before ultimately having our currently permanent team in place, and then innovation, graduating out of innovation into the clinical space, so I joined as the product manager. And so the expansion is ongoing. We're constantly iterating and reevaluating what we offer and how we can grow, whether that's changes in the product itself or to the ecosystem, whether that's a new consumer, new partners, or new offerings that we have available.
So as you can see, we have quite a few consumers. It actually goes on to the next slide. But there's 3 big categories that we have. A member, so something like our mentor, provide information from us. Also care managers, so that's like Rosalind or CGX, which is currently operating, or pharmacists. So with Inspire or X-Console, something like that. Sure. Fortunately, I'm done with this.
Thanks for that. And so I'm going to go through our tech stack. We are one of the first applications that joined with a file category, and unlike what my parents would say, you can access it on a sunny day. And one of the benefits of using the cloud is that we have autoscaler, and that means that we can add instances and take them away as we need to, as we have heavier or lighter load. And also probably one of the major benefits of using the cloud is that you can one click and it's deployed. So that is beneficial for consumers because we have very limited downtime. Obviously, since we did start the deck, we're using test-driven development and pair programming. Thanks for that. I think one of the most touted benefits of pair programming is that code is reviewed, since we're working together, code is reviewed instantaneously, which eliminates the step of actually having a code review. And also the ideas are a little bit more thought out because we discuss things before we ever write any code. And also one of the benefits, like as a newer developer, I get to work with Arjun and Devesh, who both have a lot of years of experience. So, and Charles also, as a new team member, we've been able to pair with more experienced people and increase our own tech knowledge and learn new things that they're experts in. So that's been a big benefit for me personally. And then another thing that we use that's kind of a little bit unusual is we use the Oracle database. So we have Python migration scripts that we use to generate our releases. So it's a little bit of automation on that end. So we just button and here's your release script. So then we also use NuGet packages, which helps us to separate pieces of code that we want to reuse other places, so that keeps our API code sweet and clean.
All right, thanks, Stacy. Is it audible? Okay. We want to share some of the best practices as a team that we came out with. The first one, and of course, this is the one that we learned from the deck. It's a blueprint deployment. This is basically to make sure there is not a major downtime, to make the downtime either no downtime or far less downtime. It will be in seconds. And then another advantage of that is we can really check the application in production without having a live application. So whatever the issues that we are not anticipating, like firewall issues or database connectivity or something else, we know at least a week ahead or at least 3 days ahead, so that we can work on it. We don't have to, bother not people just calling and paging them. So we can reduce all those efforts that we would think at once. And the second advantage of that is we can also go for like load testing. If there is anything that is you are changing majorly, you can go for a load test by connecting to the lower environment database. That is another advantage of it, so that we know how our production server or production instance is behaving without touching the live application. And then we want to touch base with advanced monitoring setup. We make use of PCF and the Dynatrace features to make sure we are having it. We would like to show you the Dynatrace dashboard. This is our dashboard right now. What we've done is we interact with Dynatrace and PCF, and then we make sure that all of our services, if you can see, there are 8 APIs that belongs to our view, and then we monitor that. We put them in one of the TV outside, and then we monitor it every minute. And whenever this becomes red, then we can easily just go in there and find out the root cause. And then we have some stats, how many requests are coming out for a particular API, and what is the response time, and what is the number of errors that we are getting, so that you don't have to depend on any other manual monitoring systems, or you don't have to wait for someone to come to you and say, hey, there's some problem with your service. Okay. let's quickly look at this is one of our API. As you can see, we can easily check how many services are coming up and how many services are interacting, how many instances or how many servers I have, and then how many services are interfaces that I'm interacting with. And the section on the right will show is there any effect or the slow responses because in my API. So I can easily see what is the highly consumed service and what is the call that was the slowest response. And from there on, we can go into this one, and this particular section will understand, we can easily go back to our dependent services, like if my service is calling 10 other services, I can easily trace back like how many calls are going to the dependent services. Like you can see in the past 24 hours, there are 23K calls to my service, out of which 50% of the calls is going in this one. And I can easily pinpoint where the issue is, whether the issue is with my database or with any of the consuming services. So this is one of the biggest advantage of the enterprise dashboard that we may use today. Alright, switching back, this is the future of our OML services. We are going with, because right now today we go with a lot of manual process, including raising an APP, get the code scanned from the security team, and then go back to site scope for all other things. So those things we are doing it manually right now, and our intention, we are working with Andrew Foster on the DevOps side to make sure all of those processes to be automated very soon. That will help us to increase the time period that we are going to the production. It will that is one of the GreenLight APIs. And apart from that, today, we have integrated all of our AFS approvals so that you don't have to go back manually to any of the user and send out an email saying that, hey, we have done the production done today, can you please sign up on it? So we are doing everything, all of this part automatically today. And this GreenLight API will enhance and it will answer so many Kemana managers about what the application is, when it was turned, whether the PBO is signed off or not, whether the code is scanned or not, without any manual intervention. And then we would like to touch base with the feedback loops. This is very important thing that we learned in the deck, that it's not just the consumer and it's not their requirements. You need to go back to them on a frequent basis, understand their needs, understand their end users, and understand their actions, so that you can come up with new ideas, any new features. And in that aspect, I need to thank my management who is accepting our ideas. Like, it's not the original requirement came from the consumer, but it can also be one of my ideas that is coming in and going in there just because of the feedback loops. And we provide the user research. Basically, we are the one source of truth, and every other consumer thinks they are the owner of the data. That is because how they interact with the member, they are the final point of context. So everybody thinks that whatever the data that they are updating, that is the final data. But at the other end, the other consumers are also there, and they are also thinking the same thing. So we are working as a collaborative across the consumers. So we make use of Buzz Group and a lot of other things, and we are also coming up with a few more ideas to bring all of our consumers together to reduce the pains with the data. And that's all with me. Right.
Thanks, Arjun, for these brief descriptions. So this is basically an overall OML structure, the high-level architecture diagram, that how we are interacting with our internal components and the external components. So I will try to explain you that what we are doing right now over here. So these are some negotiations A, B, C, and D. So we receive a call from consumers, and our APIs or microservices are powered by API manager. We are on API Connect also, but we do not have any active consumer API Connect. We are not on APG, but we are planning for that based on the consumer need. So for the security point of view, we are managing our consumer security habits on board with API manager and API Connect also, plus we have our internal mechanism also to validate the member request, the authentication purpose and everything. And we will make sure that no anonymous call should interact with OML. If something is happening, we are returning a well-mannered, proper warning and error messages. And we are having full tracker that who is calling OML API, whether it's a legal user or anonymous call. PCM, this one is a cloud foundry, which is our major power. So it also comes up with its internal firewall. So whenever there is an API interact or some other external or internal server calls, we interact with PCM and we open the firewall and everything over there, just to make sure that the calls are very much secure. And these are the components that show that OML microservices interact with external or internal. We use these external keywords whenever we are calling some other APIs or some other services. But for us, those are external ones. And Arjun has already explained about the data trace. We have a well-managed the monitoring tool to maintain all the calls to identify that which one is causing the problem, so that we can reach out to the specific team. We are not claiming that if OML services are down or OML is taking lots of latency, there are latency issues. So we are saying that we are the responsible, but the latency belongs to some other teams also. That's why we are using this data trace. So we reach out to those teams collectively that okay, this is the issue, please correct it. And we just started to integration with IAV, that is IBM Integration Bus. We are using this, basically this is a tool that allows you to create a workflow of all your manages. So we are using this IAV workflow for two reasons. One, we are interacting with Hadoop, that is big data. And that team is basically used OML data for analytics purpose, some compare or something like that. And second one, we are using this IAV to push the real-time data and the real-time claim. We are working on a project right now where we are, initially we were calling the pharmacy claim service to get the member medication list, but there is a time lag, 24 hours or more than that. Just to minimize the data, we introduce this IAV and we ask pharmacy that let's work on an approach where we will get the real-time claim medications. Right now it's a near real time, but we are working with that team to get the direct claim data from our design. But that is in our progress. Whenever we will ready, we will post it properly on Buzz and all. We are using this Oracle 11G and yes, we are maintaining the security over there also. We are using the password authentication while interacting with the Oracle database. And Oracle come out with by default that Ignite that help us to identify that which Oracle operation is actually taking time and whether it needs to do some optimization or not. If it is necessary, we are doing the proactive. And that one is Hadoop. These are the enhanced deployment process. We are continuously working on the POC and we were selected, as Arjun mentioned, by Andrew Foster, that the standard team that is following the human specified standards, and they selected us to go far beyond the limit. So we are working on that Greenlight API check marks to reduce the process and to improve the security and everything on the OML side. So we will update you over the first post and we will also publish the white paper once we are ready with this POC, so that whosoever is upcoming team is, they can take the advantage of whatever we learn. So that's all from my end. I'm handing over mic to Jay.
So unfortunately, our cutest team members were unable to join us today due to travel and nap time conflicts, but Ishna and Margot give kind of weak answers in Q&A anyway, so don't tell them. So we wanted to leave time for questions and answers.
So you're using an iterative development process. Were there features that you didn't think about from the beginning of your process that became very apparent and you needed them midway through?
Yeah, so especially since it was designed with one particular consumer initially, that ecosystem has grown over the years, and some that were shown are just targeting future connections. And so with each new consumer, we like to do some of that discovery and iteration, and as Arjun mentioned, help them with supporting user research to help their end users discover what needs OML can add that they can then incorporate into their front end. And so we are constantly adding, whether it's new fields or even the vaccines API is newer. So yes, it'll work.
What's the mechanism of Hadoop again? I haven't heard about Hadoop for like 5 years.
Okay, basically our job for the Hadoop is that we are pushing all the OML activities to Hadoop. Activities includes that whenever there is an insertion, updation, deletion, new consumer having our OML side, and whatever the activity they are doing for the medication, we are pushing those to Hadoop. And Hadoop is using Kafka internally. Kafka is nothing but a kind of a message queue internally built up in Hadoop. So we push the message by using that PubSub model, by using that MQ to Hadoop, and Hadoop read the same messages at their end, and they do some analytics.
So an archive.
The data. It's not an archival. We are not doing archival anything, but they are doing for analytics.
Hadoop is basically for reporting whatever the transactions that happened in one medication list. Because it's a live database, we cannot touch it multiple times. So that's why we are using Hadoop for the analytics purpose, and all the analysis happen on the data. Like if you go to the top 10 medications, then they will go to Hadoop and do the research.
And somewhat related, but not directly answering your question, when any user of any of our connected systems were to delete a medication, it's not a hard delete. It would be inactivated so that it no longer shows to the users, but OML would maintain that record for historical accuracy.
We know there's some work in the pipeline, you found about sources of information from OML. And looking to capture the information from enrollment, is that still in the pipeline for next year?
It's actually for this year. We are hooked up with unsecured drug pricing so that when agents or prospects are pricing their drug lists, it will be saved for OML. I don't know that an actual pre-effective experience is built out, but we are, as of this year, going to keep those records. So in the past, when you did your pricing, after you were done, we just threw it away. And so now we, by connecting to OML, have the ability to obviously save them a person's medication list so that when they do convert and activate as a Humana member, when they were to, if they were to log into our other applications, we would already have that met list to populate for them.
We don't use any logging mechanism as such, but PCF will provide a good amount of information in terms of logs. You can go to PCF and PCF metrics that will give a lot of information. Apart from that, we do the database logging, which is the transaction-wise logging. When it comes to any issue with the data, then we know the history of that particular record from the starting of the information. So we do use that as to resolve any issues with the data, and we use PCF metrics for any kind of issues that we are not able to track with the data. And then we use the database to understand my dependencies. And if any of my dependent services are not working properly, then I will make use of database to give a good concept, and that has really helped us in the last couple of months. Like we go onto the team and say, oh, there is some problem with our interaction, and then we find out what the resolution has made. But that finding an issue is like, initially before Dynatrace, it took like 7 days to identify the issue, but after Dynatrace, it just took us like 7 to 10 minutes to identify the issue. That's how we make use of Dynatrace and PCF metrics as a logging systems. Yeah, Sitescope is a traditional way of maintaining the service apart from the Dynatrace. So that will inform the users, whoever is my stakeholders. There is any direct email sent, or we post it on the bus group as soon as we receive a Sitescope alert. So Sitescope is alerting us in one way, and then we make use of Dynatrace to really understand where the problem is. that's a good question. We do the PPVs as soon as the term is done. We do the IT validation. As part of the IT validation, we use dummy gen keys, and that is where all of our warm-up requests will be done, and that will not have any kind of effect on the live environments.
So you mentioned OML as a single source of truth. When you were initially building it, how did you determine what that truth was if there were conflicts?
I only heard half of the question. How do we determine?
The question was, when OML was being built and there were multiple sources, how did you knock out elimination as to what the real truth should be?
So, really the process to begin was what information is actually relevant to the people that we're building this product for. So, like, what fields should this thing have and how should they be presented? The medication list itself iterates over time and it's a real-time response. So it's really like, what's the most recent information? We get that question a lot, and it's kind of just about trusting your users and trusting intent. So I would say what the information what the med list contains, as far as like the nuances of the data has changed over time, but the principle of trusting the users that we interact with to keep the list up to date and accurate has been a concern.
And it might be helpful to remember as well that there was only one consumer initially, so that first data.
It was, Inspire and SmartList Pro, so those were our clinical pharmacists and our care managers. The product originally supported a test and learn of a clinical service that's now at scale called post-discharge medication reconciliation. So when one of our members is discharged from the hospital and enters the Humana Home Transitions Program, they have an experience now where their care manager visits them in the home. And then there's a three-way call with a clinical pharmacist who does a comprehensive medication review with them, working in separate workflow tools in separate systems, but now working with the same set of information. Whereas prior to that, we would have the pharmacist build this beautiful medication list, and then the care manager can access the data. While it's part of their job to keep that information up to date as well. They were part of the experience of building the list and having that conversation with the member, but we were creating this duplicate documentation madness. So that was sort of the original aha, is that everyone's building a medication list. And everyone's trying to keep it up to date, everyone's trying to keep it accurate, but these interactions are happening like asynchronously across time, and no one's sharing the same set of information.
My question is also along with role is how actually you kind of manage the information for the medication needs. I know like different sources, they might use different coding systems to the same medication that it's in your arsenal. So we have some issues when this mapping, so they talk the same medication, and also medication, that your medication is associated including like the start date or end date, so you can know actually this actually medical medication.
Yeah, as far as timeliness, we are, right now are assuming that if the medication is active, it's still being taken, which is a very different way to think about medication than a claim, because a claim is being filled every 30 or 90 days or some sort of regular interval. So we have this like solid proof of the medication. We think you're taking it, you might not be actually, is what we found, but. So that, the concept of like the medication living outside of the claims environment is really pretty like a new way of thinking about drug data for the company, and we're still learning about the accuracy, about the timeliness. You asked me another question. Duplication, yeah. There's a couple ways that we think about it right now. We match on drug name and strength, and also NDC. So there's some mechanisms to prevent duplication as much as possible.
So the NDC I have one issue with that when you use that. So some actual source they don't have they use like ours,
components, we rely on two identifiers, one is NDC and MedID. NDC might be different depends on your package or the medication, and then the MedID is another identifier that depends on the drug name and strength. And then we also rely on the drug name itself, including drug name, strength, and the form of the tablet. So for us, drug name is a crucial thing, and if there is an NDC, we will go with an NDC. If the NDC there is a conflict out there, we will go with MedID, and that's how we sort the things and reduce the duplicacy is what we can do.
It gets a little fuzzy on manually added, especially OTC medications, because we will find that we have multiple entries. For example, aspirin 81 milligrams is the most common manually added OTC, so we'll have an entry for aspirin 81 milligram delayed release tablet, aspirin 81 milligram tablet, aspirin 81 space milligram tablet. But it's very consistently recurring, and so there's still some fuzziness around that, but particularly for prescription medications. Most of our consumers, if not all, I'm not sure at this point, have WDI, the Web Drug Info Service, to use predictive type ahead text so that their users have consistency in the data they enter and accuracy.
Talk a little bit about like what consumers are feeding into OML. Can you talk a little bit about the tools that are pulling out OML? Like ARCS, Mentor, I know about that. Are there other ones?
Do you want more information on the ecosystem?
Yeah.
Okay. We can go back to those slides. So it does take up 2 slides because it's a lot, and I won't speak to all of it, but so you can see the unidirectional IRO from our claims. We do not edit data that we get from our claims. We do not allow any of our consumer systems to edit that data with some adjacencies.
Enrich it.
Enrich. Sure.
Add things like directions or education, which does not come over from claims, but is super relevant to some of our clinical users.
So if you didn't hear Lauren mentioning that we do enrich the medications that come from claims, like adding directions and indications. But as again, if we get a prescriber in on a claim, we wouldn't allow you to change the prescriber on record with the claim. So then we have Inspire Rosalind, ARCS Consult, and the next slide, CGX, Humana at Home Mobile are kind of our clinician focused tools. Then there's allow the word widget in member portal, and the standalone ARCS, currently standalone ARCS Mentor app that are member facing for self-service. Then future coming up, not January now, April 2019, we will be read-only by the PDF that's generated in Availity for physicians, the member summaries, so we'll supply their medication information as well. OMI Insights is the data lake view, it's our dashboard for accessing med list counts, information like that for analytics, so we're connected to that. I already mentioned unsecured drug pricing as well. And what did I forget? Oh, SLP, Smart List Pro, that is currently not in any kind of active development but persists today. And some of us just use it for like checking front-end visuals, things like that. Any specific questions about any of our consumers, or is that kind of covered?
You know, consider connecting with any of our enrollment provider assets, like Viva and other organizations.
We about as far as we've gotten in that space as conversations. Definitely a goal, I think, for this product is to move into the provider space as the next step. Member summary is like a lightweight attempt at first attempt at that. But yeah, I think is probably the reasonable choice to start with, and then see what we can do from there.
We're currently exploring how to get at member preference data, particularly around sharing information with third parties, such as providers and external users. And so that is, we're currently working on that with an eye on future third-party integrations and the physician space.
Again, you said it's on 2 slides. It looks like a lot of cooks in the kitchen. The idea of what is OML doing to support all of these either systems and or front ends. You as a product manager for this space, what does that look like for you managing those relationships? Obviously, you are empowered as a product manager to make those decisions. Is there more of a partnership? What does that look like as far as, oh, next feature on our backlog is this? What does that look like for you?
Very collaborative, as Art mentioned. So I have a standing meeting, we call it OML Braincast, where all of our representatives from all of our consuming systems are invited to come and share updates and hear what the other tools are working on. And obviously, no, it may not be something they can or need to act on, but just to have that awareness. We also have the advisory group that Stacey mentioned, and I'll show a little at the end. I send out notices for any of our work. So it's a lot of internal prioritization, particularly if something will support multiple consumers, even if they didn't ask for it. When somebody brings something up, we find that often our other tools will be like, oh, that's great, we would love to have that as well. So we definitely do see ourselves as the stewards of their data, ensuring that any new consumer or any change happening in one tool isn't going to negatively trickle down to the other tools, and so carefully vetting any requests for impact on other consumers.
We also work like a product team instead of a project team. So that will also enable us to collaborate with others.
We also work on the personal part, so just to make sure that one member is having, one consumer is having some different feature, and second consumer is asking for some different feature, we can use our internal versioning to maintain such type of version. So overall consumer will not impact. But yes, we will always encourage our consumer to use our latest version, but yes, based on the need, we can switch our consumer depends on the version.
And we mentioned earlier, we do ask for UAT sign-off and PPV from our consumers to varying degrees depending on their access and frequency of use. But thankfully, Kevin, the product manager for ARCS Consult, which is another innovation deck clinical tool, that is one of our front-end consumers, is always ready to jump on for us if we need someone to validate an end-to-end and end-to-end.
So I know you guys, this was in partnership with the deck. This could be for anybody. What were the advantages or some takeaways from going to a balanced team from either a project team or a product team? And how did that affect you guys as a team? And did you have to modify that at all? Just speak about that.
I'll let them weigh in as well, but having worked on both project-based and now product-based team, we're still figuring out what budgeting looks like in the graduated space out of the DAC and innovation now, but we are still requesting to be funded as a product, and that gives us a lot of flexibility in our turns that we can turn frequently, and we can prioritize the backlog as we essentially see fit. So a lot of these projects that our consumers have one-on-one, we've already done work for them. So while they're still sorting out their budgets and their priorities to implement, April of next year, we're ready and waiting for them. We are able to make very responsive changes. If we were to need a hot fix or anything like that, we can do it as soon as it's identified, things like that. And really prioritizing the holistic user feedback view. It's not like, okay, this project over here touches on this one area and then kind of forgetting where it impacts somewhere else. We really look at the OML product as a whole and the ecosystem as a whole. Thank you, everybody, and